Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with a review of the brand new Realme 14 Pro Plus. I've been using it in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress 2025 and it's a very healthy mid-range phone with a serious dose of novelty. It's got a triple LED flash at the backside, it's got a backside which changes colors if exposed to cold, and a huge 6000 mAh battery. If this weren't enough, it has quite a bit of RAM, 26 GB if you consider those added from the storage, and as well as that 5 years of Android updates and a periscope camera which is solid even at 6S lossless zoom. So there have been photo tests in Barcelona and more, and it's time for the review. First of all, the design. Now, Realme collaborated with the folks of Valeur Design, it's a Nordic studio from Denmark if I'm not mistaken, and created this pearl looking backside. It's white usually, but when exposed to cold below 16 degrees Celsius, it becomes blue. Now, aside from that, we also have another version, Sweet Grey, which is a vegan finish and a more premium, and it's sort of like a fleece I would say texture, which some people may love. The thickness is 7.99 millimeters here in the pearl white version, and the weight here should be around 200 grams or perhaps even below it. Now, the phone itself is very solid, I mean very resilient. I'm talking about IP69, IP68 and IP66 certification, so it can be sunk in water for up to 48 hours or up to 2 meters, which is very, very impressive. It's protected against spills, even from coffee. It's protective from being dropped on the floor without damage. Now we have plastic at the back, a plastic frame, and the screen here, which is quad curved, is also pretty well protected with Gorilla Glass 7i. So that's about it, a pretty well built phone with an interesting approach. Each unit has a different pattern at the back side. We should actually remember that. And the inspiration comes from the sea world, from jellyfish and octopus or octopi or whatever the plural is. Now, when it comes to the screen, once again, it's a quad curved affair and it's actually bigger than its predecessor. It's a 6.83-inch OLED panel with a 1.5K resolution, and the predecessor had 6.7-inch, so the diagonal has increased. The bezels are very narrow here, around 1.6 millimeters, and we also have protection against dimming, PWM dimming to be more precise, at 3840 Hz, which reduces your tired eyes. It makes your eyes less tired basically. Okay, as usual, I'm going to subject the phone to a screen test and see what comes out of that. Okay, so first of all, a very immersive panel. Even when exposed to the sunlight, the strong sunlight in Barcelona, it had zero problems with the contrast, a very bright screen with a lot of colors, and I do mean a lot. Shows something like a billion colors. Wide view angles, deep blacks, and we also did some tests, like for starters the lux meter test, which measures the brightness. We have it here. We achieved 936 lux units, which is quite solid. It's above Samsung Galaxy A55, Moto G84 and Motorola Edge 50 Pro. We're below the recently launched Oppo Reno 13F and Honor 200. There are also a lot of settings for the screen, so if you go here to the display and brightness, you're treated to the auto brightness, as well as screen color mode with vivid, natural. Of course, you also have the pro modes, cinematic, brilliant, and so much more. When it comes to eye comfort, there's the bedtime mode, which makes the color a bit warmer, so it won't affect your melatonin secretion, and you can also select your screen resolution and screen refresh rate. With a very solid screen, it's time to go inside the phone and see what we're dealing with as far as the CPU and RAM are concerned. As I mentioned in the intro, we're getting 26 GB of RAM. But before that, let's see what processor we have here. While the Realme 14 Pro has a MediaTek, the Pro Plus has a Snapdragon, Qualcomm Snapdragon 7S Gen 3 to be more precise. And here we're having also the GPU Adreno 710. This processor is developed on the 4nm process. It has a prime 2.5 GHz core, as well as several other cores, a total of octa-core setup. And we tested here the version with 12 gigs of RAM, as you can see here for yourself, as well as half a terabyte of storage. I would say that I didn't encounter any performance problems, no overheating, no hiccup. The interface works like a charm, and we also have benchmarks here. I'm going to start off with the CPU throttling test. So benchmark, we go to the CPU throttling test, which is this one here. We dropped only 9 points, while the Galaxy S25 Ultra drops around 40 points, 40%, which is actually pretty solid result for a non-flagship. When it comes to Antutu 10, here we are with the result here. Now, in Antutu 10, we're on the 51st spot. We surpassed Honor Magic 7 Lite, Oppo Reno 13F, but this time the Galaxy A55, it's doing a bit better. And let's see what else we have here. So when it comes to Geekbench 6, multi-core, just above the Honor Magic 7 Lite and Oppo Reno 13F again. But let's see, we're below the Realme 12 Pro Plus, Galaxy A54, and even Realme 14 Pro, which has a MediaTek. So when it comes to the Geekbench, not that impressive. In 3D Mark, we're above Motorola H50 and the Razer 50 and the G75. I would say pretty typical results for a mid-range Snapdragon-based phone. Somehow I expected it to be just a little bit higher in Geekbench for some reason. Now you're wondering probably about the, temperature and any sacrifices. It doesn't get hot, only 30.9 degrees Celsius, as well as 27.5 degrees Celsius. So definitely no overheating here, even, I would say, even in benchmarks or throttling tests. So that's pretty solid. When it comes to the battery, you have a giant here. Silicon Carbon 6000 mAh unit. The predecessor has the 5200 mAh unit, so that's quite the jump. You're also charging the phone at 80 watts. Sadly, we do not have a charger in the box. When it comes to the actual battery usage, we have 27 hours and 9 minutes, which is video playback time. It's above Google Pixel 9 Pro XL by almost 1 hour. We also surpassed Oppo Reno 13 Pro, Motorola H50 Ultra and the Pixel 9. We're on the 28th spot, but the non-Plus version of the Realme 14 Pro scored quite a bit higher. Now, Honor Magic 7 Lite is superior to us, and there are a few other mid-rangers like Oppo Reno 13F, so it's very solid, but it's not a record. Continuous usage is very satisfying, top 10 material, 7th spot, 19 hours and 37 minutes, and that's more like it. We're only beaten by hardcore gaming phones and huge battery phones. We surpassed basically, well, everything, flagships, S25 Ultra, Oppo Find X8 Pro, several hardcore hitters. So yeah, in the mid-range department, this is one of the best phones to have. When it comes to charging, we achieved, let's see, 100% after 1 hour and 30 minutes, 13 minutes, and after 30 minutes you're at 70%, should be enough for 1 day of functioning. When it comes to the settings, you can easily go here and find what you need, plus some extras which you wouldn't expect to see in the battery section, like the GT mode, like the battery mode, which is balanced, power saving, and super power saving. So far, the selling point is definitely the battery. When it comes to the acoustics, we have a stereo setup. You can see the bottom speaker here, while at the top side we have the earpiece doing all the work. They deliver a quality sound and with quite a bit of bass, but you shouldn't exaggerate with the volume. Let's actually listen to some tunes. Okay, so the volume may not feel like a record breaker, but there's a lot of bass. It's a very bass heavy set of speakers, and the bottom one is doing all the lifting, the heavy lifting. When it comes to the volume power, we have here 82.5 decibels at the acoustic sample at the top, and at the bottom 90.4 decibels, quite a difference, so definitely a much more powerful bottom speaker than the top speaker. So I would say that the highlights here are the bass and possibly the voices, although there's some distortion at max volume, so keep it at 70%, you should be happy. We have some calibration here like the smart media, gaming and music modes, and with these values here, we're actually able to surpass quite a few other phones, even Huawei P series phones, even flagships. So let's see. So we achieved 90.4 decibels, which would place us above the Honor 200 Pro, which is a mid-ranger, Galaxy A51, which is a bit older, Google Pixel 9 Pro XL, which is a flagship, and both the Magic 6 and Magic 7 Lite. Okay, so when it comes to multimedia, basically games, 95.8 decibels. Here we expected a bit more, but still not bad. It's better than a Galaxy S24 Ultra or a Motorola H50 Fusion. So in the end, not bad. Also, no audio jack, just in case you're wondering. Now let's talk cameras, and I'm going to move on to I would say a white background or close to it to better see the punch hole for the selfie camera. It's a 32 megapixel selfie camera which has 4K filming and gyro EIS stabilization. At the back side, the heavy hitter is definitely the flash, and I can actually turn on the flashlight so you can see the flashes. There's 3 of them, and you can even set up their color if you want to, so that's pretty cool. Now, let's take them one by one. The main camera is a 50 megapixel shooter, f1.8 aperture, optical image stabilization. We also have a periscope telephoto camera, 50 megapixel, 3x optical zoom, 6s lossless zoom, which actually works, and an ultra-wide 8 megapixel camera with 112-degree capture. Now, we do have a lot of modes here in the camera app. You saw them in the unboxing, including a study mode, eye autofocus, and so much more. There's even tweaks for the level of brightness of the flashes and their colors. Now, let's go straight to the samples. First of all, let's talk about the selfies, and I have to say that we got quite a few shots here, over 500 of them. Okay, so let's go to the selfies. There are 2 instances here. My colleague took some shots on a very crazy winter day, then I went to Barcelona and took shots on a very warm day. So, selfies. I would say, considering the weather and considering it was snowing outside a lot, they aren't half bad. You can clearly see the texture of the skin and of the hair. And once again, you can also opt for a wider angle for your selfies. I would say the results are good looking, as well as there's enough light, as long as there's enough light around you. There's a bunch of reflection and there's the snow, but when you add the bokeh into the mix, you get an extra touch here of clarity, and of course the background blur helps with highlighting the face and the facial texture. You can also see, I would say, an improved color of the eyes compared to other smartphones out there, and compared to what we saw before. Okay, so these are selfies. Now, as far as the daytime shots are concerned, once again, a very, very cold day, a lot of snow in Eastern Europe, and this is the regular white shot. This is the ultra white shot, which is somehow just a bit brighter, but in general the white snow helped with the brightness. This is the classical colorful fence, which we always photograph, and I would say the colors are a bit more dull on account of the weather, and also some move shots here and there. My surprise is that in spite of the fact we're dealing with an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, the details aren't half bad. And speaking of details, I'm actually shocked by how good the zoom is, especially at 3x, but even at 6x, you're getting your money's worth. And this is not just a casual occurrence. You can start zooming even forward at around 10x, and you'll be very impressed by the results once again. And this also repeats itself in Barcelona, where I'm pretty sure that we have a nice level of zoom here. I should have a cathedral to show you here with an excellent amount of zoom. Let's see. Oh, it's actually a dragon. So this is the regular shot. This is actually the ultra wide shot. Then we start zooming in on the dragon. This is 3x, and this is 6x with very clear details of this dragon photographed on La Rambla. We're dealing here with the equivalent of a focal length of 73 millimeters. And it's simply fantastic what this periscope camera can achieve, even without being at the level of 5x or 10x optical zoom. Color me impressed. Okay, now back to the drawing board. We dealt with zoom, we dealt with ultra wide selfies and colors. We also have excellent close-ups, as you can see here for yourself. A lot of texture here in a very hard situation. The focus falls spot on, and I'm actually looking for close-ups like this. So macros are also excellent. This actually reminds me of the shock I had with the Honor 200 and Honor 200 Pro, but in a much cheaper package. So that's pretty nice to see. So close-ups are fine. Texture is excellent for this little snowman here. And I'm also looking for a bit more color in Barcelona to show you. By the way, these are my selfies taken in Barcelona this time. After my colleagues, we skip to better weather and an excellent focus. Not sure if the front camera has autofocus or not, but I'm pretty impressed. Okay, so I promised you colors, and here's La Boqueria, the central market in Barcelona. This is a regular shot. This is the ultra wide shot, which is a bit darker. You can see here all the jamon, and here a lot of veggies. You would say this is a Huawei flagship from 2 or 3 years ago. That's the vibe I'm getting from this color calibration. So basically, this camera can do no wrong. And these are daytime shots. Now let's go to the nighttime. We return to Eastern Europe, or better said Romania, where the conditions were tough, very tough. You have snow, you have the blizzard, you got the wind, and you also have the darkness. In spite of that, the phone performed actually very well, even in the zoom, and even without relying on the night mode too much. I would say once again, especially if you look here at the top part of the shots, you feel like you're dealing with a flagship from 2 or 3 years ago. The street light aren't exacerbated, they're not exaggerated or expanded. I don't see any annoying halos, There are some halos here, but I would say they have reasonable size, and you can tell that there is a certain lighting pattern in the close-up and a certain lighting pattern in the distance, all of them kept in check in a very realistic manner. So color me impressed once again. Okay, so we even have more selfies here in the building before going out into the blizzard. I would say they're fine yet again. Compliments of the excellent, you know, Magic Glow triple LED flash. And some darker areas here, immersed by the yellow lighting of the street lights. You would say this is a much pricier flagship. That's the highest praise you can give this phone. Now let's talk about the video. Okay, let's see the media types here. So we have no less than 39 videos. Of course, some of them are captures. This is a color video. In the blizzard, I would say I'm pretty happy with the colors, even though it's a bit murkier, darker outside, nice reds, greens and yellows. Although the stabilization is pulling the image a bit much, you feel the overcompensation of the stabilization every now and then. But the clarity is spot on in 4K. Let's see something else here. This is a walk in the snow, I think. No, this is actually the focus test. Focusing on the foreground, on the hand with the glove, and on the background, alternating between them in a very fast and accurate manner. If you want more colors, here's Barcelona with a bit of soundscape. Excellent passage between a darker area and a more lit area. A lot of details in 4K. A nice panning. 3x zoom, 6x zoom. This is actually the 6x zoom where the noise starts to appear, but before 6x you'll be very happy with the result. And this is La Boqueria. Keep in mind that inside the light sources may confuse the camera and may increase the exposure too much if the light source is too powerful and there is a lot of darkness behind you. The situation is difficult, a lot of things to focus on, a lot of movement, but I'm happy with the stabilization and the focus. Keep in mind the exposure, which may be exacerbated by strong lights. This is a selfie video, a sort of vlog. I'm going around La Boqueria. It's not as well stabilized as I would have liked it to be. It's only now that I'm seeing people smiling in my video, trying to sneak into my my clip, I see. Didn't notice them, to be honest. Okay, and here again, have some sights in Barcelona. So if you're panning, you'll be happy with the results. But if you're walking around, you may be not very content with the stabilization, especially on the selfie, which actually felt a bit grainy indoors. So for panning, it's fine. Okay, and I think we also have some low light samples. Believe it or not, this is low light. And it's actually not that bad, considering it was a blizzard and considering we're zooming. There are some skips between the levels of zoom, but it's a mid-range phone, so it has to be forgiven. Excellent colors, not bad halos, size-wise. Some flicker here and there in the distance. All in all, it went above my expectations because Realme has never been a brand with strong filming up until now. Now we have other things to take into consideration, like for example connectivity. The phone obviously comes with 5G connectivity. There's also Bluetooth 5.2, there's Wi-Fi 6, NFC, USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom, there's GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, BDS, QZSS, so there should also be NFC at 360 degrees here to pay with your phone all around. I used the speed test application and did a lot of testing, and this is what the results were achieved here. Okay, let's not review this. So when it comes to 5G, we got as high as 539 megapixels in download and 45.1 megapixels in upload. And on Wi-Fi, there's 464 over 394 megapixels in download and upload respectively. Now, the first things I'm going to talk about in the software department is the fact that you're getting 5 years of Android updates. This is Android 15 with a Realme UI 6.0 on top, and we also have a sidebar here with a file dock which adapts to the situation. So if you're in a website here, you're going to see screenshots, screen recording, screen translation and more. If you're switching and going to a video app like YouTube, you're going to get deluxe experience, theater sound, image sharpener, color enhancement, color correction, air scrolling with your hand like this, file dock again and more. Now, if you're inside a photo or video or text or whatever, so if you're here and you keep this pressed, You can also drag a person from this shot to the file, doc, photos, Facebook, and more. But you can also keep selected some text from here. Keep it pressed and take it to the side, send it to an email, and so forth. This is basically a sort of multitasking mechanism that reminds me of the Honor Magic Portal. And aside from the productivity tools, we also have gamer tools. This is the game toolkit. You have your frame per second, you have your gaming mode, your capture, game management, do not disturb, and so forth. Okay, you also have a phone manager here, which keeps the resources in check, scans for viruses, boosts the system, takes care of the battery. And if you go deep into the settings, there's the Realme Lab, allowing you to connect to 2 pairs of headphones at the same time. Also eject water from the speakers, considering you have an underwater photo mode, and measure your heart rate by using the fingerprint sensor, which by the way is quite snappy and responsive. Okay, so that's the heart rate measurement. Now, aside from that, as usual, Realme means a lot of customization with wallpapers, icons, widgets, and layouts. These are some of the icons we're playing with. This is a system which is borrowed from the likes of Oppo, so you can do a lot of tweaks here. Not sure if I forgot anything, but there should be more AI involved here. So for example, if you want to edit a photo, you have here AI eraser and also ultra clarity. With ultra clarity, you can take older photos and make them appear new. So this is the smart lasso. I can circle around people, recognize them and make them disappear from the shot. So that's the power of AI. Removing subjects from your photographs. And you can compare your shots before and after. Okay, so that's pretty much it. AI-wise, there are some pre-installed apps. We got Spotify, Temu. There's also Google Gemini. You can make projects for school with it. You can have it create a sort of itinerary for your travels. And you should also have circle to search here. Like if I keep this pressed here, I should be able to circle around this icon and find out more about this game. Just one example. And of course, you can recognize songs and translate what's on the screen. When everything's said and done, there's plenty to do with AI on this mid-range phone, but in the end the camera and the battery are the core features. And now it's time for the verdict. So this is our website, gsm1.com, just so you know and so you remember. On the Pro side, 5 years of Android updates, unusual design with a color-changing backside, a chameleon backside, IP69 certification and military standard certification, very robust. We also have the whole quad curved bright screen here, very immersive. A lot of RAM and storage, excellent battery with dozens of hours of video playback and even regular day-to-day functioning. Appealing price, even at its debut. I imagine it would only get lower and lower, and that's going to be once again more impressive. The camera is excellent when it comes to selfies, periscope zoom, macros, and even panning around with your videos, even at night. We also have an efficient night mode, which will always be effective. On the cons, the performance is, I would say, a bit less than expected if you look at the benchmarks. Only USB-C 2.0 here. There's no charger in the box, and stabilization may have some drawbacks here and there. At the end of the day, this was actually a surprise because Realme used to be a phone bought either for gaming or for battery life. Now it can easily be bought for tourism, it can easily be bought for its zoom capacity, for its selfies, and for travel. Usually mid-range phones don't have a memorable camera. Well, this one does, especially with the zoom. Especially with the zoom camera, which doesn't have much pedigree and doesn't brag a lot about prisms, tetra prisms, and all of that work. This is the kind of phone which, when it will get cheaper, you will not feel sorry that you spend more on it when it was launched. That's the idea I'm getting here. So, excellent camera-wise, I would pick it over the Galaxy A55 camera-wise and battery-wise. I would pick it over the Oppo Reno 13 Pro camera-wise and battery-wise. Keep that in mind. Remains to be seen if the Galaxy A56 and Motorola H60 series can take this crown from it. For now, the best zoom and battery in the mid-range 2025 segment. Goodbye.